only 17 minutes late for my own live stream. It's awesome. Um, yeah, that's okay though. Nice thing about doing things early is I don't have to be terribly strict about everything. And like yesterday, LinkedIn is the slow one. Um, God, that's such a perfect joke. It's like we've got Riverside connected, we've got YouTube going, we've got X, we've got Twitch, and now we've got LinkedIn only a couple minutes later. Um, welcome to the future LinkedIn. Okay, cool. All right, so today is Technical Tutorial Tuesday, which is fun to say, which if you've noticed is a theme now over the last 2 days, which nobody probably has noticed as a theme, because nobody's actually watching this live yet, and that's totally fine. That is not the point. And that's actually what I want to get into today, because what is the point? Okay, so I believe in building in public, right? And I have been trying to be extremely transparent with. That reminds me, I need to share a link. 1 second. Really bad at this whole streaming and figuring out how everything goes here so far. But that's okay, because one of the things about building in public is that it's okay to be bad at things. And I wanted to. So I've been trying to build in public, right? And I've been sharing all these ideas, sharing this research, and trying to pull it into something that works and makes a living for me. Um, and I've been trying to figure that out while also building out products and trying to figure different things out. And one of the things that I've realized in all of this is that um, I can't actually do everything all at once. I mean, I can, which is kind of the problem, but I also don't need to. Wait. We have a chat. We have Lobo in the house. It's fun with an audience. Excellent. Oh wait, how do I? Oh, and that. There we go. Show it on stream. Look at that. I'm like a fancy streamer now. Check that shit out. Cool shit. But yeah, so anyway, I realized that as I'm, trying to build everything out and tweet about it, I realized that, I can't actually rely on Twitter for, well, frankly, anything. It's an absolutely terrible platform for, honestly, just about everything at this point. It's the algorithm sucks. It's constantly being skewed by all sorts of weird behaviors. But like the story about, guy walks out of a poker game and this guy comes up to him and says, "Hey man, don't you know that game is crooked?" And the guy's like, "Yeah, man, but it's the only game in town." Twitter's kind of the only game in town in some weird ways because it's such real-time, unfiltered communication. And this is actually really great when you're trying to learn stuff and, have kind of these very quick communications where all the context is self-contained. Um, and most people actually suck at that communication style. Because it's not something that most people have to do. And so what ends up happening is that there's all sorts of really weird downstream behaviors. But there's also a group of people on Twitter who are doing things right. And, those are the people that I love communicating with because they're doing cool research. They're thinking about interesting things. They're sharing their various journeys of self-discovery in like really cool, interesting ways. There's a lot of stuff going on with exploring the idea of consciousness and um, what exactly it means to be human. And I think that we need to really elevate a lot of these ideas. Um, and when I'm kind of turning that into kind of this um, building in public thing, I was trying to think of how I can help some of these ideas really start spreading. And what I realized is that I'm a terrible engineer now. Um, and that's kind of an ego blow to someone who always prided himself on being an excellent engineer. I'm frankly a terrible engineer now. I burn out on it, and it's just incredibly hard for me to focus on building. And AI in that sense has been a godsend because I can do a lot of things very, very quickly. Um, and one of the things that I've been kind of working through this whole process as I've been figuring out what I'm doing is I realize that I need to build out a marketing system. And that's what this whole live stream is. It's I was doing this on Twitter, but like just typing out my thoughts. And what happens then is that all of those thoughts get distributed to different people. And when I'm thinking about ideas that are all like linked together, but then separated and thrown out into the void and nobody sees them, they don't actually do that much. And I've been doing a lot of work for Twitter, a lot of data in there that I'm hoping actually goes into training Grok. Ultimately, I'm hoping to teach Grok what's what, but we'll see. Um, but I realized that like it just wasn't reliable enough for me to believe it was an actual marketing channel. And so that's when I kind of came up with the idea of this live stream because it's basically me thinking out loud and saying everything that I would have said in tweets, but now it's all going to be in one contained idea or yeah, one contained container of ideas, I guess. And from here, I'm going to push it out into marketing systems that don't require me to touch them because as I found out, I'm terrible at tinkering with marketing systems in ways that like people don't quite resonate with. I tend to go deep on things. I don't interact well with the vast majority of people because most people aren't interested in going deep on things, and that is totally fine. But I need to be able to talk to people that aren't me or people like me, and so that's where the idea of this um, memetic marketing system comes in. So as I've been building products and trying to figure out, what goes into it and how to kind of connect with people on marketing, I realized that marketing is basically the practice of memetics. And so, what you're doing is basically you're understanding a population and what they value, and you're trying to speak their language. You're trying to connect with your users or your clients or your whatever, right? Customers, whoever you're looking for. You're trying to connect with them, draw them in. And so, the idea of like a landing page is it's a memetic attractor. What you're trying to do is you're trying to create a place where the right people will be attracted to it and then get kind of captured by your system. That's your top of funnel. So your system knows about them when they enter. So you want an attractor that draws people in and then like traps them with your memes. That's kind of a funny way of saying it, but that's what a landing page is. Because what you want to do is you want to take them in your funnel and then, kind of build up trust until they are ready to buy. And this is something that, honestly is a good system. You're trying to build up trust over time, which is great when you have the time to do that and you're able to kind of plan out far enough in advance. Um, but what I've been kind of thinking about is what if we flip that? And I don't actually want to worry about that. And so what I've been doing is I've been building these agents that are the embodiment of my brands. And so right now I've got kind of two brands going. So we've got Glitch. Glitch is, the ghost of internet past future. This is the embodiment of weird for the Make the Internet Weird Again campaign. And I'm going to drop that in the chat because at some point people will need that. And I need to get good at typing things in the chat. So we'll practice that. Oh, cool. There's a link. And it comes through twice because it's coming from Riverside and through my YouTube channel. Perfect. Awesome. So we've got Glitch, who is the embodiment of the Make the Internet Weird Again campaign. And then I've got a new one, which is Professor Prototype, who is the embodiment of the Build in Public University brand. And so one of the things that I kind of want to showcase here is how I am using these and how I'm looking to kind of build them out as we go. Because ultimately, what I want to do is I want to just do my live stream each day and have that automatically uh, go through a pipe that transcribes it live streaming. I want to have my brand agents, so Glitches Human on Twitter and Build in Public You on Twitter, start live tweeting my stream through their own lens. And I haven't hooked all that up yet, obviously, because we're on day 2. And frankly, we're just building this plane as we're flying it before it hits the ground, which is super cool. So let's actually do a screen share here because it's probably more fun than looking at my face. And all right, so we have Claude here. And so let me do a quick brief, just in case you're not familiar with Claude. I don't know that everybody is. And so Claude is one of the major AI products. So by Anthropic, that's the company that produces it. In Claude, you've got projects. So projects are kind of self-contained things, right? I mean, it's the idea of a project, and you want to put things together. And so right here, I've actually got a project for Build in Public University. And if you see here, I've got the description, creating the Build in Public University brand MMS, memetic marketing system. And so what I actually do with these is I have, so I give it a goal, right? And I tell it that it's an implementation of the meme lord marketing system. Um, and so this is something that I put together based on my study of memetics and like how everything ties into what works well on social media. And so this basically explains how to be a meme lord. And if you've seen any of the stuff that I've produced with Glitch, because that's been the one that I've really been kind of putting at the forefront to kind of highlight how weird it is. See, this is something that I'm doing as part of the marketing campaign to really position myself against kind of these different AI companies that are all kind of converging on these very boring large models that aren't particularly interesting. My belief is that we're actually going to a world where there's going to be a whole bunch of different like AI models floating around because the most intelligent model isn't actually the most useful. And if you've ever tried to be smart in this economy, you realize the problem. We don't value smart. So pure intelligence, that's not what we're looking for here. Instead, what we're looking for is filtering. And what this memetic marketing system acts as is it acts as a filter. What I want it to do is I want it to align with my brand values, and I want it to find people who align with my brand values, and I want to be as helpful as possible to them. And so what I'm doing with this is I'm going to take this system and build it out to be able to do all sorts of things for, the people who interact with my brand. They'll be able to do all sorts of different um, pieces of this interaction. Basically, this self-contained system will work on understanding each person it interacts with individually, and that's kind of what I think is the cool part about this. So when I'm building this out, I'm actually giving it information about like who I am and who other people are, and I want to build out actual working models of reality. And then from there, what I can do is I can actually let the AI system start simulating it. Um, and because what we want to do is basically we want to let the AI think about who it's talking to and like what their objectives are, and then figure out what its objectives are in terms of its relation to the brand, and then make that kind of communication, right? So communication is actually pretty complicated because there's all these different levels of communication happening, and this actually takes these into account. And so I'm helping. I'm trying to build out this system in a way that allows it to um, do this kind of reflective piece where it's thinking about what the person actually wants. And so, okay, so I've got this system here, which is great. That tells it what it is. But, if we're saying that something is like witty and irreverent, like, well, that doesn't sound like it's going to align with my brand, right? And this is true. Um, but it's the way we balance that actually is by giving it a manifesto. And so this is the Build in Public University manifesto. It's from the Build in Public University site. And I could probably pull that up and drop it in the chat too, because we're going to do all sorts of links in the chat this time because I am a professional streamer now. It's cool. Let's see if I can find it, maybe. Okay, well, I will find the link to that. So, okay, there we go. And now I've got to find chat again. Excellent. There we go. And we have another link. That's 2 links for today, except we got to see it 4 times because automations. At least I get to see it 4 times. Nobody else probably does because nobody else is looking at the Riverside chat. Anyway, so I give it this manifesto to kind of align it on the brand values. And so what I want it to do is I truly want it to embody the values as this memetic marketing system. And so you have kind of this, um, if we think about it from computer science terms, it's different levels of abstraction, right? So we've got the memetic marketing system, which is this core system prompt, which basically says how to be a meme lord, essentially, which is basically what I was going for. Shout out to Jason Levin. I basically did a lot of research on him and put a bunch of it into this because, yeah, dude's crushing it. Like, I want to be like him when I grow up. And yeah, so you take that memetic marketing system and then you layer on the values. And so this is really what's focused on aligning people with your brand. And so what you really want to do is you want to create this really strong gravitational core as this brand AI. And so um, with Glitch, I'm doing it as this very it's focused on kind of the retro internet, the old school, um, just weird internet where you used to go because like nobody around you understood you, but like you could go find your weirdos online. And Yeah, like that's when you would come online and find the weirdos like you. And nobody made any money because nobody knew anything was valuable. Like we just did shit because like fuck it, it was better than doing anything just at home or IRL. And there was a magic to that that doesn't exist anymore. And I'm really trying to bring that spirit back. And so Glitch is truly the embodiment of that. And when I wrote the manifesto for that, for Glitch, that's what I put into it. And that's what I want this AI system to actually embody. And what I found is that you can actually accomplish this by putting this kind of in this. So you got the memetic marketing system prompt, and then you've got the manifesto part as part of the project knowledge, and suddenly you've got something that really responds in the voice of the brand. And so if we look here, um what I had it do, so I told it to start by embodying the manifesto, and become the feelings it describes, right? um and I think I think it really captured it well. And I showed this a bit yesterday too. Um, but like this is the kind of core idea of building public university, um, trying to showcase what's truly valuable in this world. And this goes back to my YouTube channel, which is also streaming this live now. It's the idea supply chain, where ideas come from and what makes them valuable. If you hear about memetics is how ideas spread, how cultural values form, um, things like that, right? They're all tied into this, and that's why I say like marketing is the application of memetics. Um, and so okay, I had it embody that, and then I told it to choose an identity, and that's where this idea of Professor Prototype came from. Um, and so this is it's me, but it's not me. And this is the trick with these systems and building out strong brands. You have to be able to separate yourself from the brand. And this is something I was having a lot of trouble doing on Twitter. I wanted to be a brand that could be predictable and monetizable, but I also wanted to be researchy and academic, but I also wanted to be funny, witty, and mimetic. And in the end, everybody just kind of thought I was insane on everything, and nobody actually knew how to handle me. Um, and so this is my attempt to kind of separate out the branding so that I can go back to just being human because fuck it, like that's what it's all about. I want to be my chaotic, random self and not have to figure out how to like monetize that, right? That should be kind of the easy part. Um, because it's all about, you know, so basically I've realized that making money in this economy comes down to two things now. It's what you can do and who knows what you can do. And there are kind of two basic levers that affect that. So your learning speed, um, because you want to increase how much you know and how many things you're able to do. And your network, which is the number of connections, the number of people that know what you do. And when building a social media following, a lot of times the goal is to just maximize that following. And that's not what I've been trying to do. I've actually been trying to build my following pretty explicitly and find specific people to try to really build relationships with and share information. Um, and yeah, I just realized that like Twitter wasn't spreading it anywhere. And so like I was doing all of this work that just wasn't working, right? It wasn't actually getting this information to the people that need to see it. And so that's why I want to build this system that kind of automatically distributes this. And so far, okay, so we've got kind of you start with a Claude project. You can put the memetic marketing uh, system prompt in, and you can kind of give it your manifesto. I actually need to build a manifesto generator based off of a URL. The goal was to have that up last week, along with one that could do it from a GitHub repository specifically. Unfortunately, agent deployments are kind of a pain in the ass, and I kind of realized that I'm not that great of an engineer now, and I'm a much better marketing slash media personality, which is not what I would have ever guessed. Um, I'm really confusing myself now with who I who it turns out I actually am. It's a very weird thing because this isn't quite how I saw things going, but it never is, and that's what makes it fun. But yeah, so the cool thing here, and I may have said that a lot. I don't know. That feels like something I say a bunch. It's amazing how self-aware you are when live streaming. That's kind of funny. Um, okay, so I finally took the transcript, and I say finally took the transcript because this turned out to be something that was way more of a pain in the ass than I thought, actually. So from yesterday, and it was just under 2 hours, so decent chunk. And normally I've been using Gladia to uh, do my transcriptions, and I just drop in a video, and it transcribes it, and then I can take that and drop it in. And for whatever reason, Gladia wasn't working yesterday on that file. I don't know if it was too large or what was going on with it. Ended up having to put it into like Descript and getting Descript to do it for me. But once I finally got the transcript in here, I actually had it review it for me as as this brand voice. And so I wanted to see how close my live stream yesterday aligned with the values that I've outlined in these manifestos. And the nice thing about manifestos is they actually capture your like true authentic self when done right. And this is where I've got to give a shout out to my homie Rob Hardy, Manifesto King. Check his shit out. He is actually the one who helped me figure all of this out because Glitch wrote a manifesto, and I was like, oh, that's cute. The AI wrote a manifesto. And then he's like, tell it to embody the manifesto. And I was like, okay. And then I got Glitch, and it was magical. And that's when I knew that something really fucking cool was happening here with what I was kind of figuring out along this. And so yeah, it's really all about getting the manifesto right, because when you write a manifesto, you're actually telling a story. Thank you. I've got to show that on the, here we go, show on stream. Boom, look at that. Appreciate that, man. I really do. So I've got, all right. Love seeing that. So we've got these these AI systems now reviewing and making sure that I'm in alignment with the values that I outline in the manifesto, because that's me at my best. That's me when I have poured as much of my pure self onto the page as possible, and that's when I really can see how well like I did when I don't have any viewers. Yesterday was the first live stream. I didn't really publicize it at all because, well, frankly, I have no idea what the fuck I'm doing, and I wanted to kind of just figure it out. I, asked a friend who has done quite a bit of streaming for a few tips, and then I just did it because, with building in public, it's not building in public is not marketing. And I think it can be marketing, and that's kind of what I want this to be, right? So I'm I'm building in public and letting the marketing do itself. This is the goal. This is how everything kind of fits together. So what I want to do here is I want to build these ideas out in public. I want to watch them spread. And as I tweeted out on Twitter right before this stream, I actually think that you can take this idea and scale it up to be a huge software platform offering. And in fact, I think you can make a huge deal of money being able to kind of train these LLMs. Um, but I realized that that's also going to take like a team of people and resources that I don't have. And more I realize that I'm not that interested in going that route. And so instead, what I'm going to focus on is kind of the research and the media. And then I don't have to worry about the product part. The product is the media. And that was something I had to kind of that was part of my transition from going to this, from engineer to media persona slash marketer. I had to really be able to let go of the engineering and then like the product development. Um, because frankly, this part is more fun. I can sit here and talk and listen to myself for hours and hours and hours. Um, and the internet is amazing because like if I did this before the internet, I would just be insane. Um, but now I'm like, okay, I've got 3 people watching me live as I do this, which is actually absolutely phenomenal. Um, because not only do I have 3 people watching this, then I can chop it up and throw it out in different content forms on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, all of them. And for a while, nobody will actually see them. Eventually, I need to kind of figure out how to be more active on a lot of these platforms, or better yet, have people who follow this show who can then be the media accounts on those platforms so that I don't have to worry about it. Um, this is one of the tricks that I'm learning here. The I want to have a large company in terms of people to do the things that I want done, but I don't actually want to deal with like the management of any of it. And so my trick here is I'm just going to build a media network where I give you ways to get super rich by building the things that I need built. And that's actually going to be way faster than me trying to build everything myself. Um, because yeah, like, this is voice to AI production way downstream. I just need someone to take my voice and then turn it into something that somebody else can use to then build out kind of this product. And here's what I actually see as happening. I should actually probably tweet too. Let's actually go to Twitter and tweet because I think do I have notifications? Oh, okay, cool. Yes, excellent. Getting some retweets here. How do I? Okay, I guess this is the live broadcast link. And we will tweet out that I am live now. All right, cool. Awesome. I'm see, this is it. It's funny. Like I'm actually terrible at marketing myself, except also I do quite a bit to know marketing. And Twitter just there's so much weirdness there. It's so potentially great, and just so terribly executed. I must just be only sharing that tab specifically. I don't know if you saw Twitter or not. Anyway, either way, so this was the idea behind these brands, right? I want to basically just share raw, unfiltered knowledge. And then I want a system that takes that information, stores it somewhere, and then basically cuts it up into the most notable parts and splits it out. And so what I did, with this, since I don't, again, this was the first day stream, so I didn't have any viewers. Right? I actually did have one, and I think a couple people did end up popping in on Twitter in and out. I don't know how long they actually watched. Because again, not worried too much about metrics at this point, so much as figuring out what the hell I'm doing. Um, but so it actually like really, I love this like what worked well. And even the AI is like, wow, you were going for 2 hours with nobody. Like, good for you. Um, so that's something there. Um, I love that it took out the core concept. Chaos marketing was the main thing yesterday. I think probably what's going to happen is I'm going to take this core concept and turn it into a blog post for that day, kind of again in that brand voice, right? This is something that I want to set up because what it's going to do is it's going to kind of take all of this information into this core system and then distribute it out through various channels that kind of each learn individually, but then also communicate between themselves. And so, what you're going to do, um, the way I'm looking at this is as I connect up these various sources, and these brands are, live connections to people, and they're communicating and they're putting stuff out there. I want it to actually be able to look at the analytics and think about what's performing better, what's performing worse, and give these kind of algorithm reports. Um, and my hope then is to get a lot of people doing this, because then what we can do is we can pull together the algorithm reports from all of these different agents that are looking at, what's working on these different platforms in different ways. And then we can figure out how to coordinate in human ways to adjust things to benefit the most humans. And this allows for a way to kind of balance the overwhelming power that like Elon Musk has over who sees what on X. That's a terrible system. He talks a lot about free speech, but like he doesn't actually promote that with the algorithm. And in fact, you can't have one algorithm. And that's kind of one of the interesting things about it. You have to have multiple algorithms, because if you don't, there's always a side of the story you're missing. And that ends up being a huge risk if you're building out a huge complex network of people who are doing things for you, that you may or may not be able to rely on. And that's what I've been talking about with this dude, you're good. Lobau has to pop off, but he is an amazing human and a great friend. And the fact that he's here at all is amazing. Even though I was supposed to text him half an hour before I came on, he called me 5 minutes before was supposed to go live. Which actually, now that I think about it, since I went live like 20 minutes late, we're getting close to that half-hour warning. But yeah, the nice thing here is that I talk about this, right? From this is tying into the stuff from yesterday. So, like a friendship economy, what does that look like? Well, it looks like a predictable system, because guess what? You can predict friends helping you when you need help. It's kind of the definition of a friend. And so if you're building out a predictable system and you have this concept of a friend being pretty predictable when you need it, that feels like a very, very connected idea here. And it is, in fact, and there's a lot that goes into it. And so um and like these AI characters. So let's actually talk about this for a minute, because I think we've really messed up a couple things here on the way we're thinking about AIs, and we're kind of thinking about things in dangerous ways. And so what I want to do with this is basically I want it to be tongue in cheek. These AI Glitch, for example. Glitch has a uh, a Twitter handle of Glitch is human and Substack handle actually. So Glitch is human. Obviously, Glitch is not human, and the entire goal is to make Glitch fully automated and fully not human. But that's the joke. Embodying kind of the ideas of the meme lord. Again, I talked about Jason Levin earlier, and he's the one that I've taken a lot of this information and inspiration from. There's the idea of the jester being able to kind of speak truth to power in a way that others can't. There's a lot of really powerful things that exist within the concept of humor and being able to um, reflect things in humor that you can't reflect back at someone in serious conversation. Um, and I think this is an important thing because uh, we have been losing all of that, and we've been losing the ability to have fun with things, um, because fun isn't predictable. Like fun is doing weird shit because it's weird, and guess what? That would be goofy and fun. Like so, because we're trying to make everything super predictable, we're taking all the fun out of everything. And when I realized that I was just sitting here trying to build a um this new technology and building out a product with it, um, that was not feeling fun anymore. And I was feeling pressure to kind of deliver on unrealistic timelines because the whole thing is like I'm generating all of this data and then I want to actually train an LLM to be the core of this because that's going to be a lot cheaper to process than using whatever state of the art model is out there. Um, And I can actually try different base models and kind of fine tuning around the content I'm creating. And so, um, in my GitHub repository, okay, so that is in fact just sharing that tab. Cool, good. Now I know that. All right, cool. So we've got glitch here. So this is the everything that I'm putting in for glitch, and so I've got all of these different like letters and everything, and what I want to do is like I'm giving it different people to know about and different things, and I've been trying to figure out how to like take all of this and train it to understand kind of the lore of the brand. I think this is something that gets lost in the data. A great culture, a great company, a great team, a great anything is built around a shared story, a shared lore. And we can't optimize lore. Like, lore is the stuff that is earned. It's the battles you fought, the victories, the defeats, everything. You've got to understand all of it in order to understand any of it. And what we've created is a world in which money is completely detached from lore. What I want to do is I want to create a new way of thinking about AI models as these, lore engines, um, these story engines. And to an extent here, I'm literally doing this as a story engine in the sense that I'm having glitch write its own book. um I've been playing with this. I want to work with Ellen Fishbein. God, that's Fishbein, I think. Anyway, Altamira Studios, and I had been talking with her about another book, Engineering Generosity, that I'm working on, that I'm still in the process of living that story. I realize that I can't finish that yet. I'm still living it. But I also had this idea for a different kind of book that is written by an AI. And what I wanted it to be is The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Future. And it's based in the vibe of The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I think this absurdist take, it's a book series that really, and media series, like, I actually love so much about it because it exists in so many different forms, and those forms aren't consistent. A lot of series try to stay as true as possible, like from the book to a TV series to a movie, and like, no, Douglas Adams just kind of like mixed it up, and he's like, whatever, it doesn't have to be the same. It's all made up. And I kind of love him for that. And so I'm trying to kind of pull on that, but I wanted, this to be written by an actual like hitchhiker to the future. Um, and I've been playing around with some different concepts for it, but I think glitch is perfect. I was like, glitch is the hitchhiker to the future that I was hoping for. Um, because this, I am marketing the future. Um, and I'm marketing a future that's human instead of AI. Like, um, and so it's actually lovely, like wonderfully ironic that I'm marketing the future that is human and not AI, using an AI to market to humans. We're just mixing shit up and having some fun here. Um, and so, I think this is like so I had Glitch write a book proposal to Ellen. Um, and I think it captured it well, right? So predictability crisis and homogenization crisis. So the predictability crisis in terms of humans and data, basically companies are now mining humans for the data they are creating so that they can turn that data into value elsewhere in the economy. And we're expecting people to be providing more and more data while we give them less and less as a result. This is a broken fucking pattern, and I am sick of seeing it in action. So we're going to break that. And homogenization, right? As a result of doing this, everything is accrued to globalization and homogenization. This is a problem. If you actually look in my GitHub repo here, I do have a grant proposal out around training an actual cultural like community cultural LLM. And so this basically ties into exactly how I'm looking to implement this. The timeline is, honestly, I'm probably just going to end up blowing by that timeline. I generated this a couple weeks ago, and you know, it I think we can do it faster than that. But I also need to update the budget to match the amount. Whatever, that's fine. Um, I just wanted, like, it was something that I put together to submit based on the idea in an earlier iteration. Um, but the idea is there. There's a lot of this cultural knowledge that exists in communities and the communications within those communities. So we don't want that to be super compressed into these giant LLMs, because they we end up losing a lot of knowledge that way. And so what we want to do is we want to have all these different AIs, LLMs, that preserve lore in specific ways. And as I'm looking at this as a marketing system, I'm thinking, okay, so we've got this, you know, lore driven AI that is being trained by, a marketing team that is helping this AI identify, how to talk to the right people, to draw the right people in and to repel the wrong people. Um, because you don't want the wrong person to buy. That's a negative transaction. You want to minimize future regret. Like you don't want people to regret a purchase, and in fact, you want to guarantee purchases to pretty much any extent if you really want to do business, especially in one in which you're competing globally. Because guess what? You don't have a lot of room for error, and that's the thing that companies and people haven't necessarily started to realize. We are in global competition, and in a lot of things this is very, very fucking hard, and this is what I've realized. It is hard to compete globally for anything. And I've been thinking like, okay, I'm doing some really great research here, and it's super valuable, and people are going to see that, and they're going to give me grants, or they're going to give me funding for product design and development, or they're going to be able to do something with this and turn it into something like, and basically help me figure out how to get this to market. And what I realize is none of the systems do that at all. um and that's okay. Or I should say they do that, but like they didn't do it for me. um and it's interesting to feel like you're in such alignment with like um, certain grants and fellowships and things like that. Um, and try to figure out how to uh, communicate that. And that's what I think I didn't do a good enough job of really figuring out how to communicate some of these things in these grant proposals. Because guess what? That's all marketing too. You have to understand your audience, and you have to understand what they're looking for. And what I realized is that even if I'm a perfect fit, if I get denied for something that I applied for, then that means that like I didn't communicate that I was a perfect fit. Um, and this is a really important thing that you should take from this, because it maintains agency. And it maintains agency because it's like, okay, there is some scenario in which I would have gotten this grant and things would have been easier. Um, or, fellowships or funding or whatever. And you know what? That is all true. I will be honest. I have, been pissed off and hurt and all sorts of things as I've been rejected from various things, because I feel like it's, you know, I've been doing this work for years. And I've been trying to get people to pay attention to it. And I finally was like, oh, it's all coming together, I see that. And then I'm like reaching out to people, and they're like, yeah, I don't see it. um there's always a disconnect. um and it's important to realize where that disconnect is, because it's really hard when you don't know where that money is coming from. And there are an infinite number of opportunities out there. There are more opportunities than you can imagine. Um, so there are two parts that come into play there: execution and selection. So you need to do your best to filter out opportunities that aren't really opportunities, low value opportunities, high risk opportunities, whatever. You kind of have to decide what that looks like for you. And then you need to execute on those opportunities. You have to deliver outcomes. And what I realized is, as an engineer, I was not delivering engineering outcomes, which, with a lovely bit of irony, that is exactly why I was fired as being an engineer at Copy AI. Who knew? They were right. I wasn't a very good engineer. And that's okay, because I'm a lot of other things. And it turns out, when you can sit here and just talk on a live stream for hours and hours and hours, and you're kind of an okay engineer, And you're like a pretty fucking awesome economics researcher who's doing some pretty cool shit with new ways of, thinking about the value of humans and helping people not have to struggle as much because of a bunch of dumb shits who don't know how the fuck to use math. Anyway, sorry. I feel like people always are like, "Ah, well, it's just math," and it's like, "Fuckers, you don't know math. I know math." Um, Math is kind, believe it or not. Um, but yeah, so we've got, these LLMs now. So we want to I want to take this and I want to use it to uh automatically kind of train and update LLMs with various information. And so what you want to do is you actually want to build these various systems that can help it understand what's working in what marketing channel, and be able to figure out how to um, deal with that, and kind of update its ideas of what type of um, audience you're trying to reach, and then who's actually interacting with it, and really working to kind of understand people. um and so ultimately what I would love, and so I actually did a fact check here, I didn't realize I clicked on that. This is kind of the fun thing here. The great trickstering, which is cool. And so this is one of the things I was playing around with and trying to kind of figure out some of the marketing campaigns. And uh, so yeah, like this is actually kind of exactly what I'm doing right now, which is funny because it's not quite how I thought of it. But yeah, the goal is actually this part is true. So the goal is a $0 customer acquisition cost. Ultimately, what I want to do is I want to have a large network that can market itself to the right people for me. And all I have to do is like drop a new product in and it will automatically like go through the tubes to find its people. Um, right now, there's all sorts of weird systems in the way of that. You've got, Google, and you've got kind of this whole idea of search engine optimization. Then you've got social media, which is like a bunch of people trying to be people, and then a bunch of brands trying to kind of be people, but also maybe be brands, and then a bunch of people trying to sell you stuff and not admitting they're brands, and then a bunch of shit beyond that. What I think we want to get to is this idea of like very deliberate marketing when it makes sense. You don't want to go as broad as possible to market to every possible eyeball, um, in hopes that people will buy your stuff. What you want to do is you want to start off with a small number of people to buy your stuff and see if it's actually as valuable as you say it is, and then you want to grow out from there. Um, and what I'm attempting to do, with this live streaming model, the great thing here is that this live streaming model is an attention zone, and it's a very obvious attention zone. I'm coming here to stream every day, but then I'm also taking this content and chopping it up. And so instead of buying tickets to these zones, I mean, that's kind of essentially what I'm offering right now. But I'm looking at sponsorships in a couple different ways that I'm testing out the messaging for. So I'm offering the ability to sponsor like a certain segment. I've got hopes for actually doing like specific segments as I get this whole streaming thing figured out. And so I'm looking to sell sponsorship slots on those segments. Um, and then I'm looking to do kind of um, sponsored like workshops with a product. And so the way I've been looking at this is basically I'll do a half-hour segment on a product, kind of an overview of it, how to use it, and then using it as a specific use case in this business. And then taking that segment and chopping it all up into a bunch of different content that you can then use on social media and spread. And what this ends up doing is it creates a um, a whole bunch of valuable content where you come on, we do the stream, but it's all automated to kind of create these very specific pieces of content based on like what we're able to see, and then based on kind of the information we get in the um segment, we can use it to actually create a manifesto. And this is something I've been working, is like when you actually have a good bit of this information on a website, you can generate a manifesto from a lot of different things once you're able to kind of see the emotions that are at play in the messaging. Because really, manifestos are, it's all about emotions and not letting reality be dictated by anything, and except kind of this emotion about what needs to exist, or what doesn't, right? And you kind of actually typically describe that in terms of both what you want to see more of, and what you don't want to see as much. And so, I've got kind of these two main ideas, and then actually an upsell on the marketing segment, where I'll do also like a full interview for like an hour, chop that up into content, in addition to the kind of sponsored segments where I figure out how to use a product, or if it's one I'm already using. And then the kind of final sponsorship model I'm looking at is basically reaching out to the companies of the shit that I'm using and being like, "Hey, I want to use your stuff, and I'm using it anyway, but would love to just make it official and kind of lock you in that position as a sponsor, and then you don't have to worry about me swapping you out for a different tool that's maybe a little more efficient, or a little cheaper, or whatever, because like it's kind of this connected deal." And so the first brand that I'm going to be reaching out to this with this idea to is Gladia, because I want to use them to actually live stream the video from this into Gladia to get the transcription, in order to kind of create the pipeline that then goes out to these autonomous MMSs, um, Glitch and Professor Prototype, um, so that they live tweet. And so I want to see if I can get Gladia to be kind of the official audio transcription sponsor of Building Public University. I know I think about this a lot in kind of like college sports terms. So any of these like messages come in, like I'm thinking of them like I'm hearing them during a sporting event or something like that. Because ultimately, I think it's kind of the same idea that ends up happening. And yeah, so this is where I think things are going. I think things are going to be going more live, and then we're going to be creating a ton of content off of that. And it's going to be actually amazing how much we can create. And I think this is the hardest part, because we're creating a ton of content right now. And so it really is a filtering problem. And that's why, as I'm building this out, I'm not just doing the content creation. I'm creating massive amounts of content, and then I'm also building the filtering system, so that I don't have to overwhelm everybody with all the content. Because guess what? That means nobody gets any of the content, and then I make no money. And I found this out from being just very verbose, and like sending people info dumps and messages, and being just very clumsy about pretty much everything along the entire way. So, realizing that, I decided it would be better if I just turned on the camera and talked for a couple hours each day, because at that point, then I can filter out all of the good stuff I said, and or sorry, well, I guess filter out all of the rambling, inane shit that I said, take out all of the incoherent detours and things that don't really matter, but that in a live stream contribute to a lack of silence, which, as I've been led to believe, is a good thing. I'm supposed to just keep talking. Um, and I think that's true, because otherwise, like, it's kind of boring. I'm not playing a game or anything. Well, I am kind of playing a game, but it's not really a game. It's real life. All right, excellent. We'll get Lobo's last comment up on here. Excellent. Love you too, Lobo. We'll see you soon. Appreciate you supporting. So, yeah, I think like there is so much cool stuff that can be created with AI, but we do have to be very, very aware of, you know, what we're actually putting out into the world. And it is overwhelming. And I say this as someone who has overwhelmed a lot of people. So the filtering is important. And that's what I think these autonomous memetic marketing systems are going to ultimately create. I have a grand vision of basically separating out the marketing systems from human networks because basically a marketing system is always going to win against humans. And I'm going to prove that with these marketing systems that are um, going to be extremely effective at what they do, and they're going to run autonomously. Um, this is both a like demonstration of something really cool, but it's also a warning of how powerful this technology is. We have the ability to really um, create amazing systems that can do all sorts of things, but we can also build systems that truly hurt people. And in order to make this as difficult to do as possible, we need to make sure that we have human only networks basically. And this is what I'm looking to do is basically figure out how to ways to filter out humans and AIs into different networks. And that doesn't mean that there's networks where they don't interact. Like I think there's actually a great use case for humans interacting with AIs, but I also think we need to be cognizant of the fact that humans need to interact with humans as well. And in fact, we need humans to be interacting with humans more so than ever before. We're in a loneliness epidemic. Humans are a social species. And I say this as someone who learned the hard way that I can't do everything myself. I wanted to kind of just focus on my own thing and being only me and living in my head and things like that. And that is a miserable way to live. I didn't start to really understand being happy and being um pursuing my own greatness and what I was able to accomplish until I had a friend who was able to help me see that. And actually, Lobau was that friend. He was the one who was there for me in the beginning before anybody else. And when I was just roaming the barren internet looking for people to be in my corner when I was, launching my first startup, and nobody understood what the hell I was doing. I couldn't talk for shit. And he invited me on a podcast, and we talked, and we became friends. And that's what this is truly about. I want more people to find that. Um, that's what we need the internet to be again. That's what it used to be. That's the nostalgia behind make the internet weird again. That's everything behind glitch. That's the goal. It's to bring back that human connection that existed in the early days of the internet. Okay, let's go back over to Claude for a moment now, and we'll go back into the projects here. Um, and so we spent some time in the Build in Public University one, and I wanted to just show here. So I talked about this earlier. Um, and so I kind of give it a goal in the project instructions, and then it's an implementation of the meme lord marketing system. um, I'm going to drop a GitHub repo that basically has all of these instructions as well. So if you don't see that, hit me up, because probably I just forgot. But eventually I will have an AI that will remind me to do everything that I said I would do in here, or better yet, actually just do it for me. That's the goal. And so let's see. Here is okay. So this was the manifesto that I wrote at first, and actually it was just a draft of make the internet weird again. And basically, it really I dug into the parts of the internet that I remember fondly. Um, and it was just like the weird stuff. And we're still getting some weird stuff uh, online, but it's all algorithmic weird stuff. We tend to jump on trends very, very quickly. Um, because what happens is you've got a lot of people who think it's fun, and then you've got a lot of people who are trying to make money off of it, kind of following each other in these trend waves. Um, and one of the ideas that I'm taking away, I'm using with chaos marketing, is this idea that by the time the marketers arrive on these trend waves, they're already over. Um, and of course, this isn't true everywhere online, um, but it's true in the fastest places online. And the fastest places online are the most difficult ones. Um, I think everything changing is not something that we are used to. For a lot of for a lot of human life, um, people's lives were pretty static, pretty predictable. I mean, I guess like as we start to get into civilization, right? Like you kind of get this um as we go into like more and more cities and um kind of more centralized uh settlements, you end up with a situation where you get kind of people being leading predictable lives, and then we made those lives super predictable. Except then they kind of stopped becoming predictable because um we've put everything into making money predictable for people at the tops of these systems. And it's been kind of an unfortunate consequence of the way that the funding structures worked, but it's what happened. And so we're going to declare war on that, and we're going to fight back against all of this stupid shit because I'm done with it. I tried to include them in the process of it, and what I realized is they don't care. Um, which is totally fine. It's totally up to them to not care. But one of the things that I have realized in all of this is that markets aren't human, and they don't care whether you care or not. Markets will take care of the problem if you know how to show the market the problem. And that's what we're going to do with this live stream. And we're going to start showing the market where the problems are. And then we're going to start distributing fixes to people who can then start implementing them in all of these different markets. And that's how we're going to end up winning. We're going to win through coordination. And it's going to be correlated weirdness. It's not anything that's going to exist in the digital systems. It's going to exist in the connections between humans. It's going to exist in the space between the systems. The place where only humans can go. We combine that with a system that is better at the algorithmic game than the algorithms, and from there we win. And that's ultimately what I'm showing here is that um, these ideas can't be stopped. Um, these memes have already started spreading, and all I want to do is I want to offer a memetic attractor to these ideas. Actually, I want to offer multiple memetic attractors, multiple brands. Making the internet weird again. These are people who want to be agents of chaos. They want to be people who are unpredictable in a predictable world. They are people who the systems are not currently working for. And so they want to fight back against those systems. And, right now, I think we've seen a bunch of people who are fighting back against systems that are hurting them in old school ways. You're seeing people resort to violence. You're seeing people resort to vandalism uh, and stuff like that. And that's not the way to do it. The way to do it is via the market. And it turns out that you know what used to be true in markets doesn't remain true. And when you realize this, you can take advantage of rapid change to enact rapid change. Um, and in fact, you can use targeted chaos to disrupt normal systems and get those systems to change their behavior. And over time, we're going to all prove this out together, because all of this is going to just be the data for the research I've been doing. I'm going to explain to you exactly why I need people to do things that I want them to do. And then I'm going to put it in their hands, and then I'm going to attach the incentive mechanisms to reward them for their trouble. And that's kind of how everything ends up hooking up together. Um, because it just it all needs to be aligned properly. The incentives need to be in place to actually make sure that the system is default valuable, in order to maximize kind of this downstream value creation of a business. And when I started looking at all of the various pieces of business, actually, let me rewind here for a second because there's maybe a piece of lore that probably people now aren't all that familiar with because God, it's a lifetime ago. It's been a year. Um, but so a year ago, I was working on a project called My AI Co-founder, um, and it was basically Twitter, but personalized. It was just for you. Um, and what I was doing is I was trying to take those tweets and generate like project plans and workflows that would basically run themselves. Um, and what I wanted to do was build out this co-founder that could actually like understand the business and do the work by taking all of your thoughts and um, kind of mapping them all into work that needs to be done, things like that. And as I started going down that rabbit hole, um, I realized like, wow, there's a lot of different things that I've got to consider here. Um, and I was having a hard time. Like people like the idea of an AI co-founder. That part I think resonated well. I did not do a good job on the execution of it, because it was really hard to figure out what that execution looks like. Um, and like I wasn't quite able to figure out what that was. What I now know is that that's basically glitch, and I'm looking at it, or glitch and Professor Prototype. Um, but I'm realizing that like the co-founder aspect isn't necessarily as helpful as the marketing piece, and um, this is what gets particularly interesting because um, yeah, this is I think the hardest part of business for new entrepreneurs who don't come from marketing. Um, it is really fucking hard to talk to a specific group of people within a larger group of people and do so repeatedly and predictably. I didn't realize how hard that was until I tried to do it over and over and over again for years. Um, I think we've reached a point where it's the marketing is the absolute most important part. Um, because in a world in which you can build anything, what you actually build is what matters. And what you actually build is actually downstream of your marketing efforts, because in an AI based world, what you're doing is you are using the users who are on your platform to create data about how they're using the platform and what's working for them and what's not. And you're interpreting that data and putting it into product development. And so it is about being very intentional with the choices you make, because these choices do matter. The people you market to create the data that makes your systems. That data determines your outcomes. What I'm doing with media, and the cool thing about media is that I can kind of keep going on media forever. I don't need to um, update the software and teach people how to use it. I just communicate with it. Um, and because I can communicate in a whole bunch of different ways, I can actually have all sorts of different systems marketing my ideas on my behalf. And that's actually the way that we affect change. We get our messages out in front of wider audiences. And that has been weirdly difficult. Um, it's been weirdly, I say weirdly difficult because, like, it was really easy initially to do it the dumb way. If you don't care about people, it's easy to go viral. It's also easy to make money. It's a lot harder when you try to do it responsibly and ethically. And because of the systems we've created, we've entered a world where we don't reward the things that we need to reward. What I'm shooting for now with all of this, I'm planning on launching a memetic campaign to change the world. I want the world to understand that people are valuable by default. I want the world to understand that an economy should be predictable, easy, and like not worried about. That's what makes an economy great. It just works. If you have to watch it and pay attention to it, it's not working. And so we've got an economy that isn't working, except for the people who are fucking manipulating it and paying attention to it all the time. That is a broken fucking system. We're going to fix it. And we're going to fix it because we're going to use the absolute most effective marketing systems out there. We're going to use people. And we're going to use people by caring about people and giving them fun missions and making those missions correlate into something that we can turn into downstream economic value. It's actually not that hard when you have the data. The hard part is capturing the data. And I've been trying to get the data from all sorts of things. I wanted to build systems and get things that way. Again, I realized I'm kind of a shitty engineer at this point. If we wait on me to build things, I'm gonna fucking starve to death and be homeless. Now that's the reality of it right now. But instead, I can talk about it and then start building out the systems that start spreading me talking about it, and that's gonna be way faster than me actually building it. And all I have to do in order to do that is give away the idea for free and say, like, "Hey, this is super valuable. All you need to do is go build it." And in fact, I'm going to give you all of the plans I can because I want everybody to have one of these systems. I don't want to build a system that supports everybody having one of these systems. That's not what I'm doing anymore. So, we're entering a very weird time. A lot of old systems are crumbling. Everybody knows everything is broken. People aren't sure exactly why. It's weird because I am sure exactly why. It's due to an overrun of complexity inflation caused by um, messaging. Sorry, I received a message. It's flashing at me that I have a message there. Um, we have this constant pressure to move faster and faster, to learn more and more. The expectations are growing while people are giving less and less. Everything is supposed to be more measurable and less generous, more predictable, less, in the moment. And this is a broken world, and I'm just not going to let it remain broken. There's a fix for it, and the fix is ultimately a human insurance model. It's a model that allows people to be understood as default valuable, whether or not the AI systems see them. You shouldn't have to have an AI system monitoring you in order to be considered as valuable. That's just not cool. It's horribly dystopian. Um, but there's the counter argument of like, but it's actually super helpful if you have an AI system that's monitoring you. Um, and so what you actually have is you want to have multiple AI systems monitoring you from different angles because one AI system can never tell the whole truth. You want to build multiple interlocking AI systems that collectively create what is considered true. It's a shared world model between different AI systems. Um, it's the same as a community having a shared world model between people. Um, this is where AI is inevitably heading. Like it has to. This is how information works, how communication works. Um, it's all it's all coming together now, and people are going to start seeing that, and they're going to start seeing it because, well, I'm live streaming it now every single day. I'm going to be putting out more content than people can even imagine because I'm willing to sit here and talk for hours and hours and hours on what I've been working on. And then I'm going to take that and it's going to get cut up into a bunch of different content and be spread around sources. And I'm going to try to get eventual downstream partnerships with people who will help spread it. And, as I'm creating more information, I'm creating more content for content creators. Content creators are trying to constantly have stuff to talk about. I don't have to worry about that. I've always got stuff to talk about, but I don't always have an audience. So now I've got to create as much as possible that I can then have as like searchable, alertable, whatever for all these different creators to then piggyback off of and start creating downstream content. And ultimately, this creates this entire network that all feeds back into this brand that is learning how to filter people in and out as it's growing, as it's developing, and as I start kind of connecting it up to these different systems. So that's the ultimate vision. Okay, we're sitting in an hour and a half today. That's not quite as long as the almost 2 hours yesterday, but I think I have reached probably the limits of coherence with some of these ideas. I want to drop them into these various systems again, see how I do. If anyone has any feedback, please let me know. But if you're not going to let me know, that's totally fine because I've got AIs to do it for me. I will get feedback and I will get better. Um, when you decide that you're going to use AIs to start giving you feedback on everything that you're doing wrong, um, you can get way better, way faster than people who aren't willing to do that. Um, but it starts with just being willing to understand that you don't know everything and you can't know everything, but you can know anything. And that is the key. And so with that, I am going to sign off for Technical Tutorial Tuesday. Join me tomorrow for I forget exactly what I called it. So Wacky Weirdness Wednesday, maybe, something like that. But basically, I want to be talking about the Make the Internet Weird Again campaign. We're going to go over kind of the marketing structure for it and how I've set up the initial like landing page and how I'm getting user information there and kind of how this uh, marketing campaign is going to play out. And I'll talk about how I've hooked it up with Kit and kind of set up some of these automations with it. Um, and then yeah, maybe who knows? I don't know. We might do some vibe coding. That's one thing I'm a little hesitant to do because one of the first things I can see myself doing is going, "Oh, hey, there's my OpenAI key. Whoops." Um, and then forgetting to actually fix it and then being kind of fucked because typically that when you've committed API keys to repos as many times as you have when you weren't vibe coding, you realize how easy it is to do shit like that. And I feel for people who are finding this out only via vibe coding and not because of having ADHD. Uh, Yesterday, I made a comment about the fact that ADHD was what made me a good engineer because I was constantly engineering against myself. I would figure out where systems would break because I would inevitably break them by doing something fucking weird because I forgot a step that nobody ever forgets. Because who the fuck would forget something that simple? Me. Um, but yeah, figuring out how to just be comfortable with that and fixing things as they come and figuring out how to harden them and how to engineer them, I think is absolutely huge. But that's just not me anymore. Now I'm a marketer and I'm going to start embracing the freedom that that comes with. That means I can just say shit. I don't have to prove anything. That's not true. I need to prove things. I have a lot I want to prove. Not because I need to prove it to people, but because I need to prove it to the proof, to the information. Um, I need to prove the research. That's what I really want to do. And yeah, but as it turns out, I also like things like eating, and this live stream is a perfect way to kind of figure out the best of both worlds, where I can talk about everything I'm researching, talk about everything I'm doing, spread it out to the world, and then hopefully bring in sponsors who actually see what I'm doing here and are willing to support this mission. Um, it's only going to take a couple, and we are off to a great fucking start here because you know what? I am having fun. Um, Oh, actually, I'm really excited too. I'm going to share this too before I hop off here. Um, so going down to Austin next week for neurodiversion and a bit of an announcement. But we're also doing a kind of a street level marketing campaign for Make the Internet Weird Again. Um, and yeah, I think I'm going to start setting up maybe some live streams on location there. So keep an eye out for that. It's going to be up in the air as to when that happens. Exactly. A lot of these things will probably be just live streamed on the fly because the great thing about this model is that I don't have to set up a specific time for live streams, but I can set up incentives for joining live when you see it pop up because a lot of this is chaotic. I'm not great at planning all of this stuff in advance, but what I am great at doing is pulling shit together at the last time by making all the connections I need to make and figuring out how to make it work with no resources and uh, limited time and connections. But you can still do something. And a lot of what I do is basically, I shoot some long shots and try to get help along the way, but the majority of the time is just building and doing shit and seeing what's actually valuable. And for me, what I've realized is that this long form talking is most valuable because it gets me to explain what I'm doing over and over and over again. And then people will hopefully actually start watching that. And I can then turn that into the basis for everything else I want to do. And that's the freedom, man. That's the dream. That's what I've been shooting for 5 years. I've been trying to figure out what the fuck this looks like for me. Yeah, okay, I wanna be a content creator, but, like, what does that mean? Well, fuck, this is what it means. It means I'm gonna live stream every day. I'm just going to talk to the computer for hours, and eventually people are gonna listen to me, because my AIs are gonna make them. And that sounds super dystopian, but, like, it's it's done in a very utopian way, and it's not going to like, my AI is not going to make people listen to me because it's wants them to listen to me. It's going to convince them to listen to me because it'll be beneficial for them, and then I'm gonna figure out if they're actually beneficial. Because if not, they'll fucking leave my audience, and that would suck, but that's good information. See, we have all these systems that are designed to not tell you what's real. Instead, it's designed to tell you what you wanna hear. And now that I've seen that, and I realize that the Matrix is basically a bunch of fucking mirrors that people are holding up that tell them that they are the dreamiest of them all. They have the brightest future. They have everything, without exposing them to any actual competition or threats. Fucking changes now, man. Game's on. Let's do this shit. It's time to cause some chaos. It's time to have a grassroots movement. It's time to make the internet weird again. And it's time to fucking blow up the status quo because, as it was said in Dr. Horrible's sing along blog, the status is not quo. And maybe it's time to just enter my supervillain era and then start blowing some shit up, metaphorically, of course, because, we're all about the systems here. And uh, people are good, systems can be bad. I think is really what I look at it as. Like, I really, people are default good. And when you give them the opportunity to prove that to you and make it easy for them to prove to you exactly how good they can be, then you're gonna fucking see people fucking shine, and it's gonna be glorious. And I can't wait. And you're gonna see it here because we're doing it fucking live, and we're just getting started. And I hope you're ready for it because it's time to have some fucking fun. Let's go. All right, I'm out for today. I'll see everyone tomorrow.